Hey guys, Michael the DC Multiverse Collector here. Very excited to be bringing you this review of the McFarlane Toys digital Stephanie Brown Batgirl and Monarch. Now these figures aren't technically part of the DC Multiverse line, they are the McFarlane Toys digital line, but let's face it, they're 7 inches, they fit in perfectly with DC Multiverse. They are DC Multiverse figures, so I'm going to be referring to them as such. Please forgive me, but very, very keen to look at these two figures, part of the latest July wave that's dropping in Australia right now. Always enjoy these digital figures. I feel like the digital line has sort of become a wheelhouse for classic iterations of characters. It's kind of random how they seem to choose characters, but every now and then, you know, we get a banger like the classic Two-Face. Here we have Monarch. We got the probably the best version of Superman we've ever got in this digital line. So however they're choosing what figures go into this digital line, it often yields great results. Let's see if that holds true today for Batgirl and Monarch. At the top of this episode, I should just say a big thank you to McFarlane Toys Icon Collectibles for providing these samples for review. Very keen to check them out. And of course, if you're looking to pick these figures up, you can do so at any local Aussie retailer of your choice. I really, really love Green Rock Comics. They do free shipping over $100, one of my favorite stores, and also popculture.com.au. And of course, if you do shop at popculture.com.au, you can use my code, which is 15McFarlane, that's 15McFarlane, to get 15% off any in-stock McFarlane Toys item. And they ship international to the US as well, so you can get a really good deal on some hard-to-find figures at popculture.com.au, so big thanks to them as well. Anyway, without further ado, let's have a look at these figures. Starting with Stephanie Brown Batgirl, you'll see she has the Batman logo there with this terrible font. I really hate the font they use on these digital boxes. It's not very nice. Overall, the box design is a little bit drab if you ask me. Much prefer the standard DC Multiverse box. You can see the figure looks nice in the clamshell. The accessories are fairly limited, but look pretty nice. We'll have a look at that. On the side, you'll see that terrible font yet again. This is Batgirl, Stephanie Brown from the Batgirls comic. And here we have some art of Stephanie Brown on the back, looking very, very nice. But yeah, anyway, the box of this does not light my fire, but I'm really hoping that the figure inside is super cool. Let's find out. Okay, so here we have Stephanie Brown Batgirl out of the box, but before we take a look at the figure, let's have a look at her accessories. She obviously comes with the standard DC Multiverse display stand with the McFarlane digital logo on it. We're not going to look at that, we've seen it so many times. More interestingly, she comes with a collector card with that lovely art on the front, and on the back we have a data file for Stephanie Brown. So that is pretty cool. Perhaps less interestingly, we do get the digital code, which is just for some NFT nonsense, which nobody cares about, I assume, but you do get it. And we also get this grappling gun accessory, which unfortunately is just a straight repeat of the Cassandra Cain grappling gun, which we've seen 1,000 times. Well, not 1,000 times, with Cassandra Cain, and it's exactly the same. We'll have a look at that later, but it's a nice accessory. I do wish it was unique. And we also get this lovely gold Batarang here, which I'm pretty sure is exactly the same as Cassandra Cain's Batarang. So it looks like we just have a total repeat of Cassandra Cain's accessories. Not good. Yeah. Not my favorite, but they are nice accessories for what they're worth. So if you don't have that figure, I suppose this will be more interesting. But for me, this is a pretty lame assortment of accessories for Stephanie Brown. Coming to the figure itself, I mean, my first impressions are that I'm quite impressed with this figure. I often judge McFarlane figures on a simple sort of metric of like, do I feel the love or not? And what I mean by that is like when I look at the figure, when I touch the figure, when I behold it, do I feel like the person that designed this, put it together, conceived of it, did so with love and budget and attention, or were they rushed and just sort of slapping something together to fill a slot in the product line? This definitely, I feel the love. I do feel the love. There's lots of unique sculpted elements, like the boots here are unique sculpts, the belt. Yeah, it's just a nice figure overall. It's got some subtle sculpt work here on the chest for the bat symbol. The purple paint on the black plastic actually looks pretty good. Oftentimes when you have paint on black plastic, it kind of is quite thin and you can see through it. Not so here. This is quite nice, and the purple paint matches the purple plastic relatively well. It's not as egregious as sometimes you get like a major variance. It blends pretty reasonably, not perfect, but pretty good. I just do think overall these cloth capes, especially the ones with the wires that are made of this sort of like softer fabric, work really, really well. And I think the shorter the cape, the better they work. And this is a relatively short one, so you get a lot of flexibility in the cape. I like that. First off, that's my first blush impression of the figure. And another thing I really like is the head sculpt of this figure. I think it's really, really nice. Really nice paintwork on the eyes. The hair is nicely sculpted, really captures the comic book art, and it's got a lot of nice sort of wash there to bring the separate strands of hair to life. Yeah, really good stuff. The ponytail is articulated, though I don't want to wiggle it around in case I break it. Yeah, it's really good looking. Another thing you'll notice that quite like the Ragman figure and the Damian Wayne figure, this comes with a cloth hood with wire. So you can really give Stephanie Brown like the range of looks. You can give her a hooded look, which I think, it looks reasonable, I think. I happen to prefer the hood down look, but you have that flexibility, which I really love. I think cloth hoods are very, very cool. Lots of playability there. And overall, it's just quite a nice figure in hand. Like, it just feels nice. It feels solid. Some female figures have sort of really, really long legs, or they have like spindly little arms that look out of proportion. I think Stephanie Brown has been rendered quite nicely here in sort of 3D form. And her proportions are reasonably good. So yeah, my impressions are this is a fine looking figure and a fine moving figure. Like, she's got the double jointed knees, swivel at the ankles like you'd expect. The butterfly joints here in the arms are good. That sort of little disc in there really keeps it all kind of looking nice. No big gaping holes. Double jointed elbows. It's nothing revolutionary. Like, she's got good arch of the back. Ab crunch, not so much, but she has side to side. She has rotation at the diaphragm and at the waist. Yeah, interestingly, this figure does not have a diaper piece. She just has a hard plastic piece there, but it does not inhibit the articulation. You can get 90 degrees really easily, and the splits. Yeah, it's kind of just like a well-engineered figure and like a well-designed figure, reasonably well-painted figure, sculpted. It's got the cloth cape, good head sculpt. There's not much to complain about here. Like, it's a Stephanie Brown figure, and if you've ever wanted a Stephanie Brown figure as Batgirl in this particular incarnation, this outfit, I guess, which is kind of the more recent incarnation that's kind of a cross between Batgirl and Spoiler, which is her original persona. I think this is really cool. Like, I think this is a really, really nice figure. It's not like a character or a design I've ever had a huge amount of affection for, but looking at it in hand, like, it actually is inspiring me to go and check out the Batgirl's comic run. So let's do some comparisons with the figures that she might look interesting posed alongside. Okay, and here we have Stephanie Brown posed alongside the Barbara Gordon Batgirl, the Cassandra Cain Batgirl. We'll call this the Batgirls trio, and you'll see that the reason I was quite fond of this Stephanie Brown figure in hand is because she's essentially a reuse of the Cassandra Cain Batgirl, who is essentially sort of a heavily modified version of the Barbara Gordon Batgirl. But of course, the most similar parts are shared between Cassandra Cain and Stephanie Brown. There are, of course, unique elements to Stephanie Brown, such as the head sculpt, obviously, the gloves and the boots are all unique. But of course, the crotch piece, the upper leg, the lower stomach and the sort of chest area are pretty much identical on these two. So they move the same, they kind of look the same, they're the same height, but the differences in paint job and application and color scheme, I think, really does make them stand apart. So you can pose them together and they won't sort of look too sort of rehashed, I guess. The one thing I will say is the reuse of the accessories is absolutely, like, it's unacceptable if you ask me. You can get away with one accessory being recycled. Maybe, the Batarang you could have gotten away with, but that grapple gun has an extremely unique sort of sculpt to it. And you cannot pose these two together with their grapple guns because they're exactly the same. Looks ridiculous. If anything, you know, they should have just skipped it all together and given her something else. I don't know what they would have given her, but yeah, that ain't it. You just can't give her the same accessory. You know, a version of the grapple gun with the sort of the grappling thing all wound up would have been better, but you can't just do this twice because you can't pose them together with their grapple guns. So that's just a bummer. But as you can see, the three Batgirls looking excellent together. Really fond of how this one came out. So yeah. Stephanie Brown Batgirl, I think, is overall a winner. And if you are trying to build out your Bat family, it's an essential figure. It's a must-buy, and she's fairly unique. She'll pop out with that purple color scheme and you know, shock of blonde hair. I think it's an easy recommend if you're into the Bat family. So yeah, not much more to say. Turning our attention now to Monarch, and you'll see we have the same digital packaging. Not a huge fan of it, I won't belabor the point. You'll see that Monarch comes from the DC Countdown storyline, which means that this is the Captain Atom version of Monarch. This is the Nathaniel Atom, Captain Atom iteration of the character, not the Hank Hall version, which is the original version. That's something to bear in mind, even though artistically they're very, very similar. You will see that Monarch really does take up a lot of this box. He's not quite a mega figure, but he's definitely bigger than a regular figure. We'll have a look when he's out of the box. We'll compare him to some other figures and see how he compares to the standard 7-inch, but it's a big boy. I do like big figures. You'll see that there's nothing in the way of accessories other than the display stand and the cards. It's just a big chunk of plastic. And my first impressions are I'm a little bit concerned about this guy. He looks very, very simple and lacking in detail, but I'm going to reserve judgment until I get him out of the box. So let's do that without any further ado. And here we have Monarch out of the box. And as you can see, he's a big boy, but the downside of that is no accessories, except of course for the card here. And you will see that the art on the card doesn't really resemble the figure that we get. I mean, it's a stylized version. It's a more, you know, detailed version, but certainly the card looks a lot cooler than the figure overall, I would say. And on the back here, you will see the data file, and you will see that it is Nathaniel Atom, the Captain Atom version of Monarch. So that's pretty interesting. You can read up on that if you'd like. You also get the NFT card thing that no one cares about. So that's kind of it for Monarch. It's a very, very light on, and it really annoys me when you get a figure with a gripping hand and nothing to grip. You know, it's just deeply, deeply frustrating and leaves the figure feeling incomplete. I'd rather a fist hand if you're not going to give me an accessory. But really, this figure is big, but he's not so big that they couldn't have chucked in a weapon or something, or some extra hands. The figure itself is really, really odd, guys. It's kind of big and beefy, but it feels like kind of insubstantial in a way. I don't know how to explain it. Like, he's just lacking. He's lacking something. I know they're going sort of for a classic look here, a very clean look, but that doesn't work because they've done this sort of paint application with sort of silver wash on the abs, some sort of grunginess there on the belt. You'll see they've done it on the armor as well, the sort of light silver application. It kind of just leaves him looking dirty. And this is one of those cases where I feel like less paint might have actually been better than this sort of half-assed paint, and more attention should have been paid to the sculpt with some sculpted details. Really would have brought this guy to life. So at the moment, he just, like, there are parts of him that just look woefully plain. Like, you know, his back skirt is just soft, you know, Marge Simpson hair plastic. It's just really like nothingy. And this grey rubbery overlay piece at the top here just feels like cheap rubber. Not a lot of detail. I do like his lower legs. They're nicely sculpted, and his boots. But, you know, there's just nothing going on a lot of this figure. There's not much paint. There's not much sculpt. The paint that's there is kind of messy looking. So in the end, you kind of just get this very awkward looking figure. He doesn't look classic. He doesn't look hyper detailed like the best McFarlane figures can look. So there's just something mildly unfulfilling about him. So while I really like having the character as a figure, this just in hand is not exciting me in the way that a really great DC Multiverse figure can. And so, yeah, I mean, in terms of his movement, he moves all right. For a big boy, you know, this skirt piece here really inhibits the forward articulation, but it's Monarch. Like, you're not going to have him like doing karate kicks. He's going to stand around menacingly, and he can definitely do that. He's kind of got rotation at the diaphragm and the waist, which is nice. The soft armor here allows you to get like a, you know, good range of motion in the arms. Ab crunch is pretty much non-existent. He'll lean back pretty far. He can do the splits to a point, but only to a point. Otherwise, you'll tear his skirt. You know, double jointed knees. He's got the rotation at the ankle. And he's got a rocker, but it's kind of inhibited by the boot. So you're not going to get too much rock from side to side on the ankle. It's a bit stiff. He does everything you'd kind of expect. I will say, overall, the way the armor's been designed here doesn't allow you to do much with his head. Like, you can rotate it a little bit left, a little bit right, but there's really not a lot going on. He's certainly not looking up or down. That's really, really like stuck in there behind that armor. Yeah, you see, I'm having trouble even just rotating it. Yeah. Another thing you'll notice if you look at the head sculpt is the paint on the head sculpt is hideously messy, particularly down near the jawline where that yellow paint has been applied. Yeah, it's kind of a mess. There's something really messy about this guy. Like, he just wasn't given love. I said, you know, how do I feel the love? This one is like halfway there. I feel 50% of the love. It kind of just feels like, yeah, no, I don't feel the love. Like, he's actually got a lot of unique parts, which is really interesting, because usually the figures with the unique parts are the ones given all the love. But this is like a lot of unique parts, but they sort of stopped halfway. Like, they just didn't sculpt it that much. They didn't paint it that well. And then you look at some of the movie figures, like the recent Superman movie figures, and how beautifully detailed those were. And you're like, well, couldn't Monarch just get a little bit of love? Like, there's just something very plain about this dude. Very unfulfilling. Yeah, like, just doesn't hit the spot, I've got to say. But having said that, is it a necessary addition to my collection? Absolutely. Got to have Monarch. You know, pretty famous villain. Like, I want him in the collection. I would have just hoped maybe for something a little bit more exciting than this. Anyway, let's bring some other figures into a comparison. All right, so here we have Monarch alongside the Monitor and Booster Gold, and of course the DC Countdown storyline, which this version of the character was involved in. You know, involved the Monitors and of course Booster Gold, and you'll see he's quite a bit taller than a standard figure, probably another half an inch taller, I would say. So not significantly, but a little bit. He's about the same height as the Monitor, so that's pretty cool. But have a look. You know, this is a fine example. Have a look at the difference in detail between Monitor and Monarch. I think it's night and day. Like, Monitor is just covered head to toe in gorgeous sculpted detail from this soft rubber skirt. Compare his skirt to his. Like, you can feel the love here. This was a Build-A-Figure, mind you, but come on, the Build-A-Figure should not be significantly better than a standalone figure, in my opinion, of the same size. Like, in terms of the quality overall and the shelf presence, I think Monitor absolutely blows Monarch away, and there's no excuse for that, in my opinion. So that's about the best comparison that I have. You know, similar size, one's a Bath, but for all intents and purposes, these are the same class of figure, and Monitor absolutely slaughters him in terms of like quality, in my opinion. And for one more comparison, here we have the Nathaniel Adam Captain Atom alongside Monarch, and you can see, yeah, he's a lot bigger. So when he put that Monarch armor on, he certainly got buff, got swole. Yeah, and I mean, they look reasonable on the shelf together, not that you'd ever pose them together. And you can also just see, you know, it illustrates just how much taller this figure is than a standard figure. So yeah, Monarch. I don't know, guys. Like, it's lacking. It's lacking, but also I think you should get it if you kind of want to have a complete DC Multiverse collection. It's an important character to get. You're not going to see him again, I don't think. Like, this is it in this line. So if you want Monarch, this is what you're getting. And I certainly think on a shelf, you know, posed up, he'll look okay. He'll look decent. But all I can think of, I think, is missed potential with this guy. Could have been an absolute figure of the year, given the coolness of the design. The cool factor is there, but they just sort of haven't delivered in this instance. So it's as the kids would say, it's mid. You know, this figure is mid. It's meh. yeah, that's all I have to say about that. So look, overall, Batgirl, Monarch, two digital figures representing both sides of the quality spectrum, if you ask me, from really, really good to really, really average. Interestingly, the figure that has the more reused parts, Stephanie Brown, is actually the superior figure in this instance because they nailed the details, the paint, the sculpt, the cloak, the accessories, which, you know, she has accessories, even if they're total reuse, she still has them, the head sculpt, beautifully done. Monarch, on the other hand, is a lot of unique bits and pieces, but everything is kind of slapdash. Like, there's kind of not enough paint, not enough sculpt work, and the paint that's there is pretty slapdash. Specifically, you know, this sort of dirty wash that's all around is pretty haphazard, and that head sculpt is just sloppy, and there's no accessories at all. So very unfulfilling Monarch. You know, pretty decent to great Batgirl. So it's a mixed bag, but what I can tell you is that both figures are essential additions to my collection. Can't live without either, gotta have them both. Certainly probably the only figures we're going to get of these two characters in this line, perhaps in, you know, for many, many years to come. So if you're in any way interested in either of them, I say go for it. They're both certainly good enough. Stephanie Brown is actually really good. So that's all from me. I hope this video has been entertaining, informative, or helpful for you. If it has, you know, why not give it a like, subscribe if you haven't. I know the video output is pretty slow lately, but, you know, there's a lot of life stuff going on. I am trying to ramp up my output and I aim to do better. So hit that notification bell and you won't miss any videos I do upload. I will have more coming very, very soon. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, guys, fellow comic book lovers, did you watch Superman? What did you think? I loved Gunn Superman. I really enjoyed it, and I cannot wait for the rest of the DCU to come out. So let me know in the comments what you think about Gunn Superman. Let's just hijack this video and turn it all into a discourse about James Gunn's Superman. Let's do it. In the meantime, friends, keep collecting, and thank you so much for watching.